Nuclear energy. When you hear those words, you probably think of the US, Russia, China, and North Korea. But Malaysia? Not exactly the first country that comes to mind. And yet, there was a moment in history where Malaysia was seriously considering nuclear energy. In fact, there were government-funded programs, international partnerships, and even plans for a full-scale reactor. So how did this happen? How close did Malaysia actually get to going nuclear? And why did the dream stall? Let's break down the real fact-based story of how Malaysia almost became a nuclear power. Let's rewind to the 1970s and 1980s. Malaysia, like many developing nations, was experiencing rapid industrial growth, but it was heavily reliant on fossil fuels, particularly natural gas and oil. At the same time, the global oil crisis of the 1970s had made energy security a huge concern. Prices were volatile, supplies could be cut. The country needed to diversify. This set the stage for Malaysia to seriously explore alternative energy, including nuclear power. In 1972, Malaysia established the Malaysian Institute for Nuclear Technology Research, MINT, initially known as the Tun Ismail Atomic Research Center, Puspati, and now known as Nuclear Malaysia, under the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation. Its initial purpose? To develop peaceful uses of nuclear science, including energy production. Why was nuclear energy even on the table? Simple. Nuclear energy promised low-carbon, high-output power that could reduce Malaysia's dependence on fossil fuels. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, Malaysia was considered a serious candidate for nuclear energy development, given its stability, technical talent, and industrialization pace. By the early 2000s, discussions around nuclear power intensified. And in 2009, Prime Minister Najib Razak announced that Malaysia would start seriously considering nuclear energy as part of its long-term energy mix. The plan? To have a nuclear power plant operational by 2021. Yes, 2021. This wasn't just political talk. Malaysia took concrete steps. 1. The Malaysia Nuclear Power Corporation, MNPC, was established in 2011 as the lead agency to plan and coordinate the nuclear power program. 2. Feasibility studies were launched covering safety, regulatory frameworks, site selection, and public acceptance. 3. Malaysia engaged with the IAEA, Korean Electric Power Corporation, KEPCO, and Rosatom, Russia, for knowledge and cooperation. 4. Nuclear science programs were expanded in local universities like University Kebangsaan Malaysia and University Technology Malaysia. In short, Malaysia was setting up the infrastructure, talent pool, and international partnerships needed to join the nuclear club. But there was one big problem. Fukushima. In March 2011, Japan was hit by a devastating tsunami, triggering a nuclear meltdown at the Fukushima Daiichi plant. The fallout was global. Countries like Germany began phasing out nuclear entirely. And in Malaysia, public opinion turned sharply against nuclear. Environmental groups warned about radiation risks, waste disposal, and Malaysia's lack of readiness. The government's own studies found widespread skepticism among Malaysians. Then came the 2018 general election. A new government under Pakatan Harapan came to power and scrapped the nuclear plans entirely. In 2018, Energy Minister Yeo Bee Yin publicly announced, "We will not pursue nuclear power. Malaysia is not ready in terms of expertise, capacity, and public confidence." By 2021, the year the first plant was supposed to go live, the nuclear dream had quietly died. Let's be honest. Malaysia never enriched uranium, never built a reactor, and never had weapon ambitions. But here's what it did have: a national nuclear agency. Signed agreements with international nuclear powers. A full feasibility roadmap for peaceful nuclear energy. C. Plans to build a nuclear plant. Tech talent development in nuclear science. In other words, Malaysia was close on paper, but never crossed the point of no return. So is nuclear power in Malaysia completely off the table? Not quite. While current policies do not support nuclear energy, Nuclear Malaysia, before Mint, still operates today. It focuses on medical isotopes, food irradiation, industrial radiography, and research, not power generation. Meanwhile, Malaysia still relies heavily on natural gas, about 40%, and coal around 35% for its electricity. Renewables like solar and hydro are growing, but slowly. The government's net zero by 2050 pledge has revived some academic interest in nuclear as a clean energy alternative. But the public trust hasn't fully returned, and no political party wants to take that gamble. At least, not yet. So yes, Malaysia almost became a nuclear-powered nation. Not in the weapons sense, but in the clean energy, global partnership, modern infrastructure sense. And even though the program was shelved, it taught Malaysia some important lessons. Energy independence matters. Public trust is crucial. Ambition must be matched by readiness. Whether nuclear power ever returns to Malaysia's future, that remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. The story of Malaysia's nuclear ambition is not just about science and reactors. It's about vision, politics, people, and the risks we're willing to take in the name of progress. If you found this surprising, hit like, subscribe, and share this with your most skeptical friend. And let us know in the comments. Should Malaysia reconsider nuclear energy in the fight against climate change? Or is it just too risky? See you in the next episode.